Hello, and welcome to the Overly Animated Podcast, where we usually take animation seriously.
Who are you doing
Tonight,
an impression of?
on our second edition of Overly Animated After Dark, we are going to have a more free-flowing, messy conversation about an animated topic. You can find the first edition of our Overly Animated After Dark podcast at overlyanimated.com. This may or may not have not safe for work language, so be warned. I'm your host, Alex Bonilla, and I'm joined by Dylan Hysen, Sam Quattro, Michelle Anderer, Justin Cummings, and Ally Martin. Say hi, everybody.
Hi.
Salutations.
There you go. Today we are discussing, under the influence of various alcoholic substances, we are discussing the 1987 film *The Brave Little Toaster*, which, in line with our previous After Dark point, is also a piece of animated history that it doesn't get covered a lot. So we felt it was time to jump back. Yeah, to jump back and talk about this little movie here.
As we approach the 32nd anniversary.
Sure, that's an important anniversary, right?
Yeah.
Very important.
But yeah, this was a film that was originally going to be done by Disney, pitched by John Lasseter. It was later caused John Lasseter to be fired from Disney, and the idea was later picked up by Hyperion, which was run by.
Fired?
Why did they fire him over this?
I feel like I have an idea why, but I'll get into it.
Well,
I
I don't think it was specifically for this, but he was fired before he got to work on this, and then the project later got sent out to Hyperion Pictures, which was run by someone who used to work for Disney and drew some deals, got the idea, and so they ended up making this movie instead. And there are also a lot of future Pixar animators who would work on this. People like I just had this, but there were people who would later work on Pixar that did work on this. So this is why this is kind of an important thing in Pixar history, despite it being by an independent studio. And when we're watching, although we'll give that for initial impressions, maybe we'll mention that later on as I dig up that information again. But let's go to Michelle first, since you're the one who suggested this, actually.
First of all, why?
Let's break this up. First, what was your experience with this movie before this, and now that we've watched it again together, what is your thoughts today?
So I saw this probably in kindergarten, and I think at that point, how old was I? I was a little kid. I was maybe like 5 or 6. And I think it's one of those movies, kind of like The Land Before Time. When you're that age, it's like, oh, like, this is the happy moment. That's cool. And then when it gets to, like, the really surreal shit, you're like, oh, like, this makes me feel really sad and weird. But, like, I can't understand that because I'm 6. So I don't know how to deal with this. And then, oh, no, another happy part. Oh, no, it got weird again. So it felt kind of like, like a dream in a way that just, like, dream logic doesn't make sense. And, like, emotions. This is very hard to do when you're drunk.
You don't say.
Basically, like, it's one of those movies that, like, you remember, like, 5 standout horrifying things about, and everything else just kind of fades into the background. And seeing it now, like, I have a lot more context, but it feels very different because, I don't know, when you get older, you get all the in-jokes that you don't understand when you're 6, I guess.
It's true. It's very
But,
true.
that's my relationship with the movie.
Okay, good. Ally, let's go to you next. Did you have any experience with this movie, and how do you feel today?
I also probably watched when I was around the same age, and I agree. It was kind of like, what movie did you say? Not Toy Story, but it's like Toy Story. Wait, you compared it to which other movie came out? Land Before Time. It's a lot of like, it's. I mean, I remember there being like emotional roller coasters, for lack of a better term, but it wasn't like, I don't know. It definitely, I mean, it feels more traumatic now that I'm older because it's like it's very edgy. I think people were right. It's a very edgy movie, but I don't remember it being that edgy. I mostly remember like the blanket crying, and that was about it.
Okay.
when I was a kid, and then now I was like, oh, okay.
Yeah. Sam, let's ask you next. How much have you watched this movie, and what did you think of it today?
For some reason, I remember watching it a lot when I was a kid. It must have played on like Toon Disney or like fucking, I don't know, ABC Family or something a lot when, the early 2000s / late 90s was happening. It has a lot more death than I remember. A lot of death, and honestly, I remarked on this.
Wait, death or death?
Yeah, that's what I was gonna ask. Death or death?
With an A or B?
DEATH.
Okay.
Dang, Sam, dang.
It's important to distinguish.
Yeah, a lot more depth. But there also is a lot of depth. So I noticed that there was a lot of just like pretty scenes that, by the way, this was based on a book before it was a movie. A lot of pretty scenes that like sort of happen that kind of don't narratively connect, which kind of was more reminiscent of like a book happening.
Good point. I forgot that it was a book.
It was a book. That's right.
It was Sam sent us a picture of Israel.
I just remember the picture, but
yeah.
So there's a lot of scenes like that. But there's a lot of really like dark and adult scenes happening, and I'm wondering like how interesting that is, that you have all these like pretty little nothings to happen to keep the kiddies entertained, but then all this like death and dying happening at the same time. Like, we thought the main characters died probably 5 times throughout the movie. I thought that was kind of wonderful that you have that sort of thing. And no, watching it as an adult, like I appreciate it more, because death is a part of life.
Yeah, you don't remember it when you're a kid.
Yeah, and so
Sam's onto something, I think. Yeah,
maybe it doesn't teach the kids about death like a 1-to-1 sort of thing, like Sesame Street would. But I think it's sort of important to like look back on and be like, hey, this movie I really liked when I was a kid. It had a lot more deeper themes than I realized, and maybe it's better for that themes than I realized, and than just like Pretty Little Nothings.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, and we will definitely get a little deeper into like the death scenes and like how that works in this movie. But we still got to get general thoughts. Let's go to Justin next.
I'm Justin.
Hi, Justin.
Yes, you are.
How much have you watched this movie beforehand, and what did you think about it today?
It's one of those things where like I knew that I know I'd seen it, and I know I'd seen the cover probably on like a VHS tape that I would see when looking in like the attic and stuff, but I didn't remember any of the plot. I just remembered there was a toaster, and he was little, and he was brave. And it turns out he was. Yep. For like 1 minute. I liked the movie. But it was weird. It was weird.
You're right. It was weird.
There was weird stuff that happened in the movie, and it made me uncomfortable, and it made me feel things I didn't think I'd feel tonight. But here we go.
Oh God.
All right.
So
we will dig deeper into your deep feelings, I guess.
Yeah, man.
Dylan, have you watched this movie before, and what did you think about it?
So I've not seen this movie before.
Wow.
Okay.
And people are giving me crap about this, and I'm not sure why after watching it.
It's just one of those nostalgic things, that's all.
I guess, yeah, I could. Well, it was weird to watch for the first time now. This is a very weird movie. This would not be made now.
No.
Yeah, it's. I don't know if it's good. It was just very weird, and there's every 5 minutes we're teasing one of the appliances dying, and I was really hoping that they would at every turn.
Dylan wanted to pull the plug.
I really did want to pull the plug on every one of them. Not that the toaster was not the main character,
God.
so that was false advertising.
Who was the main character?
I never said the brave little toaster the main character. It said there was a brave little toaster.
Yeah, he was there, but I cared about everyone else more than him.
Who was
Well, that's what happens with ensemble casts sometimes.
Yeah.
Right?
It's truly an ensemble. I loved the.
Because he's the main character.
Who is the main
I s-
character?
Eat
I don't
toaster,
know.
maybe.
Well,
Master,
it's a
obviously.
group.
It's the big-
It's a group effort. They all like
Yeah.
switch off main roles in the movie.
Yeah.
This is a really weird movie, so it's an interesting choice for us to talk about.
Well, I think that's what we here at Overly Animated After Dark should focus on, like the strange.
Is that a
movie-
we? Is that a real?
Well, based on this
is.
and Rango, which are the only two editions of this that exist so far,
God.
I think
Is this what
that
you guys do here at After Dark?
yeah, we focus on weird movies that people don't really think about, but are important to the legacy of animation, right?
Next time
And I-
we're gonna do like Shark Tale.
No.
I
Shark
don't-
Tale.
I've
I
never
don't know if
seen
that has had as much an effect on animation as you would hope. I guess that Will Smith is
It's
now
the
gonna
only
be Spies
thing
in
Will Smith
Disguise.
is known for.
Yeah, but I'll just say quickly, this was my first time watching the movie as well, and I agree that it's a weird movie. Honestly, though, I was impressed by it. I think that it's a pretty good movie. I think that it's there are some scenes that, like, when they decide to go all in on the I think horror is a strong word, but when they go in on like putting them in peril, like, I think that is interesting and something that you don't usually see from films animated like this, and that's something and it feels almost like a show that could exist today on, like, in the Netflix adult animation section almost, because it feels weird that, like, children's animation doesn't it's getting there, it's getting back there now, but I feel like right now it's still a hesitance towards, like, actually, like, showing the characters dying on screen, and, like, that happens at the very beginning of this movie, and later, like, we see cars getting crushed and whatnot. And so, like, I like the bluntness of it. It's something refreshing in a way.
When you say it could have been a Netflix series, that's actually I feel like what if it gets rebooted?
the new Black Mirror is just brave little
No one's
toaster
rebooting this.
for 30 seasons.
Well, you say that, but actually,
You don't know that.
It was picked up for a remake for rights to remake it in like 2012, but nothing has happened.
Wow.
But like,
I wonder why.
The idea is out there, and actually, I picked up a Slash Film article from 2009 because Brave from Pixar was coming out, and there was actually speculation at the time that Brave was going to be a remake of Brave Little Toaster by
Oh
Pixar.
my god!
Mm.
That's
Oh,
hilarious.
man. That's
Can you
crazy.
imagine if Pixar made Brave Little Toaster?
So, well, they did. It's
Dude,
Toy Story,
I
right?
feel
Well, yeah,
like
right.
They would like take the balls out of it. This movie had like a lot of guts for like, especially for its time.
Yeah.
I feel like if they made this nowadays and tried to sell it to like the Pixar audience, it would not be the same. That would not have that much like dark content. But it's like, oh, let's have a toaster, blah blah blah. Like, fuck that, man.
And the thing
Well,
is,
I've-
the reason, part of the reason that this is able to take risks is because it got sent away from Disney, and like an independent studio is able to do, and so like they're able to go a bit more far out than what Disney at the time would have been able to do. And also, I pulled up the names of like people who worked later. For example, the co-writer of this movie, Joe Ranft, went on to get a screenplay nomination for Toy Story. So that's one connection.
But I have a hot take. This
Wow.
is a better movie than Toy Story. I didn't even like this movie that much. And this is
Honestly,
better than Toy Story.
Whoa.
Honestly, I agree. Yeah, I watched Toy Story.
This is
okay.
so much more interesting.
I watched
I
Toy Story
literally
pretty
flat on
recently.
my back, and I
honestly.
think that Dylan's too drunk right now.
No, hear me out. I watched Toy Story like
yeah, let's let Sam explain this.
I watched Toy
Yes,
Story a
yeah.
couple weeks ago. I watched all of them a couple weeks ago, and they were like, "Oh, they're okay." Toy Story is a little bit darker than your average Pixar / Disney fare these days, but I feel like the Brave Little Toaster, it has more bravery, for lack of a better term,
And
She's not wrong.
more nuance.
than anything like directly associated to Disney does. Yeah, it
Well,
has more nuance, like Michelle said.
I mean, Toy Story almost certainly has like a more coherent and concise plot. This movie is all over the place,
Yeah.
but there's more interesting things happening.
Yeah.
I would say like the
Talk about the
closest
flower thing, because that was like pretty
I hope
legit.
I want
Like,
to get to that.
the way I interpreted that, like, as a child, like, I didn't know what to think. I just knew I was supposed to be sad, and I sure felt sad, but I didn't know why, because I was 6. But now it's like, the flower's all alone. It's on this grassy hill by itself. It sees what it thinks is another flower, and then the toaster leaves because it's his reflection only, and the flower gets so depressed about the other flower leaving, or what it perceives as the other flower leaving, that it starts to lose its petals and droop and shit. That's
Technology
so sad.
is killing nature.
Yeah.
That's the real metaphor.
It was so desperately clinging to the toaster, trying to physically stop it from leaving too. You just it's just really sad. I really feel for that flower.
That was probably the weirdest scene in the movie.
I know.
Oh, the clown is the weirdest.
There's a lot.
There's a lot.
I'll just quickly say, with the Toy Story comparison, I think that the closest comparison is Toy Story 3. Spoilers, when they get at the end, when they're in that dumpster and they're coming to terms. Yeah, coming to terms with them dying. I think that's the closest one-to-one with what this is doing. It's spread it out over 3 movies. So.
Yeah, exactly. This is what. If you want to see any of the Toy Stories,
forgetting though
this is better than all 3 Toy Stories combined. Okay?
No, the mishmash appliances are Sid's toys.
That's it. So there's multiple parts that are directly pulled from this movie.
Yeah, clearly Toy Story 3 is a better movie, but this is better than Toy Story 1.
Toy Story 3, it had maybe a couple moments that were better.
Toy
than
Story
movie, but
3 was the same Toy Story 2. So
I'm
that's
excited for Toy Story 4. My waifu's back.
Why are you excited for it?
Her Bo Peep is back.
Yeah, it's gonna be bad, but
they're gonna fuck that movie, man.
Hey.
Don't call him Woody for nothing.
Other people that were involved in this include Mark Dindal, who went on to direct The Emperor's New Groove and Chicken Little. Also, Glenn Keane, who is a famous Disney Renaissance animator. He'd be on Beauty and the Beast, Aladdin. He directed an Oscar-winning short with Kobe Bryant. So there are a lot of famous animators specifically on this film, and I want to ask about the aesthetic of this, because I think that it's very specific to 80s Disney but was there anything that stood out to you? Did it look normal? Any thoughts on what the look of this movie is like?
Can I just say one thing? Not because of the Disney animators in this movie, but whoever chose to, this is going to sound stupidly sexist, but I'll get to the point.
Go for it.
Yeah.
The way that they animated the toaster to have actual colored eyes, I wasn't sure when I was a child, because I watched a lot of anime. I wasn't sure if he was supposed to be a girl or not, because he was the only one that had eye colors, and because they made him super big.
Yeah.
But
well, it's supposed to be a dude, and that's my feminist discourse for this movie. There's no female characters in this movie except for the girlfriend.
Except for the lesbian. No. There was the tape player that had titties.
The tape player. Yeah.
Yep.
Sure.
All of the main characters are male coded, even though the toaster is voiced by a woman.
I'm sorry.
But,
someone had spinning hypnotic breast, Dylan. What is not to be feminist about that?
Yeah, it was 5 seconds. That was it.
I fell in trance that felt like 3 days.
Oh yeah,
The
that's right.
cars in the junkyard ladies, but I don't know. They all died, so I don't know.
No, this movie falls into the storied history of inanimate objects having to be gender coded as male, which we've discussed before.
Now, I would like to read a portion from the Wikipedia, which is actually very relevant to this. It says here that director Reese, who had conceived Toaster as a female character, later recalled an anecdote where a crew member slammed the door and walked out because he had hired a woman to play the lead role.
Wow.
But however, later it just ends up that the dialogue is Toaster's a male. So I don't know where the transition happened, but apparently it was originally supposed to be female. So
Fuck that guy who slammed the
Yeah, a
door.
coworker was so upset about a toaster being a lady toaster that he left his job over it.
This is truly the precursor to Pixar, if that's true.
Oh boy. So besides the gendering, any other comments on the look of this?
Yeah, it's weird.
Okay, it's weird.
I mean, it's
It's a lot of different styles and colors.
What movie did we watch?
era, so I don't know.
Toy
You could
Story.
tell it was lovingly painted every frame which is nice, I guess.
Was it?
They're good
What?
music.
Also, there were like
Yeah, good
shots,
songs.
especially at the beginning. That
song
felt like
pretty memorable. Yeah.
in the beginning of the movie, I felt like I was in the MoMA and I was very confused for a minute. Like,
Justin, what did you think of Mr. Potato Head in this movie?
who?
Don Rickles was he's dead.
He's in
Okay.
Toy Story 4, anyway.
Oh,
Yeah,
yeah.
Monkey Punch.
What?
Okay. We're not talking about Toy Story. We are talking about the Brave Little
I
Toaster.
thought we were.
It's the same movie.
It's not the same movie because in Toy Story, do we have the flower being sad in the middle?
Oh, yeah.
or-
No, there's nothing that brave.
Wait,
There are
Ah,
so
in that
many
movie,
dead
okay?
actors.
Yeah, the ace guy dies too. Like, he's so sketch, and they
Everyone
walk
dies
up-
at least once.
yeah, the
Yeah.
AC guy's totally dead, and they just keep on their conversation like nothing happened. Like, dude,
This-
he's right there. He's dead in the window.
So
This movie is a JRPG second to last dungeon where you have a death scene for everyone and then they're actually alive at the end.
So I
Yeah.
I get the reference, Dylan.
Okay.
Well,
That's
That's what they did.
I'll ask about like death being a big thing in this movie.
Yeah,
Now
that makes sense.
it's cartoony, and aside from the air conditioner, no one actually dies, and even the air conditioner at the end returns. So is this part maybe overhyped, or are you guys still are you still taken aback by just the amount of it?
I mean,
That's
all the
my
cars
number one
still
takeaway.
die.
Wait, Dylan, what was your number one takeaway?
The cars each tell
Oh,
their
yeah.
life story and then brutally die.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, that's the biggest thing that stands out is that it's so violent and there's death teases like for the entirety of the movie. Yeah, no one actually dies, but it's still like all focused on there's traumatic scenes of the characters we don't love but don't actually love, like almost dying. Like it's very it would be very traumatic, I feel like, for children.
Yes.
It's
How did you guys
it's not.
survive?
You're wrong though. It's traumatic for adults because as adults you have so much more context. But when you're a kid, you just kind of accept like, okay, so they're dead and they're scared of dying and they're dead now. Well, okay, the movie's going to this different place now, so I guess I'll just watch that now that the dead part's over. Like, I literally think that's how kids like think about things because when you're a kid, you have like no real control over your life and everything is already scary because it's out of your hands. So I think like in a way like kids can deal with this a lot better, but like as an adult you see that and you're like, shit, that's like really upsetting. I don't want to die. But I think it's because we have more autonomy and we like to think we have more choices and we won't just like get smashed into a cube. But like as a kid, like I think you can honestly handle it a little better. It doesn't faze you quite as much as being an adult. That's my hot take anyway.
I'm an adult.
Well,
I was really rooting for everyone to die in this movie.
Wow,
Dylan, you're
wow.
an asshole. Jesus Christ, man.
Don't call my senpai an asshole.
Don't use the word senpai.
Oh, thank you.
Dylan, you're
Um,
senpai.
Okay, I guess that leads
Sure.
us into the discussion for like of the characters of this movie. Like, would we think about them, or if you have a favorite? Justin, sounds like you have a favorite.
What?
Me, I'm the favorite.
Oh, you're senpai. Okay, never
Dylan
mind.
senpai.
Yeah.
Okay, I thought you were
We should
referencing a
delete this part out.
character.
My
No.
favorite is the lamp with the lips. Okay, that's my favorite character.
No!
My favorite character-
Lampy.
My
Lampy,
favorite-
no, no, no,
Michelle,
my
Michelle, make
favorite-
your case for Lampy.
Not Lampy. No, not that one.
Well,
Well, I
let
don't want to
Michelle
make
speak.
a case for Lampy. I mean,
I
Lampy's
like
fine. I guess Lampy's like the middle of the road, right? He's not like a curmudgeon like the vacuum, but he's not like hopeful like Blanky. He's just kind of in the middle. Maybe he's like the everyman, because he hates the radio, which I guess is like hashtag relatable, but he's not like strongly like hopeful or strongly grouchy. He's just like kind of in the middle. But he does try to save Blanky in the forest when he electrocutes himself. Like, at least he had a moment of, like, being legit. I think they all had a moment, right? Like, Vacuum had a
They each
moment,
got their
Toaster had a
moment, yeah.
moment.
Can I
Blanket-
talk about the radio?
Sure, talk about the radio.
Talk about the radio.
I went on quite an emotional journey with the radio because I
radio
really
voiced by John Lovitz.
I fucking despise this radio in the first five. It would not shut up in the first 5 minutes, and
True.
But then it was not talking all the time, and by the end, I grew to love it because it was the funniest and the most real, and I grew this emotional connection. Once love turned into hate, two sides of the same coin. And this radio, I was rooting for its survival more than any other of these dumb appliances. So the radio won my heart in the end.
Okay.
Wow.
I'll let you say that the radio it gets okay, although I do get a little bit annoyed by its old timey references. At some point, that gets a little irritating. But yeah,
did you know this movie was set in like the 60s or something? Did you know that?
I did not know that going into this.
It was the early 70s into the 80s, I would say.
But the radio is playing Brooklyn Dodgers broadcast. That's like from the 50s.
That's what I'm saying. Yeah.
The fact that Alex knows what that means is wild.
And he's only playing like Al Jolson and Cab Calloway. Those are references from like the 40s and 50s.
Maybe he's a hand-me-down radio, man.
Cab Calloway was actually the 30s, and Cab Calloway actually has a really interesting connection to animation history with Betty Boop.
Does.
And the banning of, like, there's some interesting I'm too drunk to talk about it, but like...
No, you're right. And I'm sure
Sam, are you saying that the time has passed by the radio and it's really 20 years later, but he's still stuck in his past? Wow, that's so sad.
Animation,
my
man.
god.
Allie, do you have a favorite character out of this group?
Oh, that's what we're talking about?
Wait, out of which group?
Yes.
Or just in the movie? Do you have a favorite character in the movie?
The lesbian wife.
Yes, Chris.
Probably.
She's so good.
Oh, is that a real character?
Yes, that's the master's girlfriend.
She's in here for like 2 seconds.
I have to say, Michelle made this point while we were watching the movie. It's very weird to hear the word master.
Yes.
I know. Master's just the thing you don't want to hear when you're over the age of probably
18, 16.
20. Yeah.
Like, it's
For race reasons or sex reasons?
both.
Both.
Literally
It's
both.
all of those.
I swear to God. But no, favorite character for the appliances, it would either be the toaster because main character syndrome, or the vacuum because he's the tsundere.
The vacuum
Yeah,
is such a good character.
Yeah, I
Yeah,
think
that's
my
my
favorite is the
favorite.
vacuum.
Kirby.
Kirby's my
Was he named after the video game character?
Yeah, because he sucks things.
No, apparently there's a Kirby brand vacuum.
Yeah, there is.
okay.
Oh,
Yeah.
wow.
What are you gonna do? Suck me to death?
Mm. I literally choked on the podcast or in the watching when that happened, y'all.
But yeah, that vacuum provides the balance for the other characters being very silly. He's the grumpy person, so he acts like, I think Michelle, I'm stealing this from you, but he's like the Squidward of this group, and you kind of need that balance in this kind of a crew, and so I appreciate Kirby very much.
right? I feel like he's so really jaded because he's like the oldest, so like he's seen shit. And Sam had that headcanon about like maybe his wife fell down a waterfall, and that's why he has PTSD and like all that. But then he
That scene made more sense with that headcanon.
That doesn't make
he
sense.
saved all of them from the rushing rapids. And so he he has his moment of being like, yeah, like maybe like I have this like hard exterior Squidward vibe, but like I honestly do care about all you, and I saved your butts, and I love you, but I won't tell you that. And I just love it. What a great character. Kirby's my favorite for sure.
Hashtag Squidward vibes. But in the beginning, he's like, so you don't like him, right? And then he's like grows on you so quickly. Yeah, it's a good character.
Yeah, he's a softy underneath his hard shell.
Yeah, so all in all, I think that character work is good in this movie.
Ask Sam about her favorite.
Oh yeah,
character.
wait, Sam, have you shared your favorite character?
All right. So my favorite was Blanky. So
okay.
everybody shut the fuck up.
Okay.
Hey, let me say.
No one said anything.
Well, let's open,
no one
open the
commented.
floor. Open the floor. We gotta.
You're all fucking drunk, and I know you're gonna say shit about it.
Did you know this movie had a 2.3 million box office? That's not that
No,
much.
I
That's
didn't.
amazing.
Well,
Exactly.
Hey,
That's why I said shut the fuck up.
Probably a lot of money.
yeah, Dylan, that's actually because it wasn't actually released theatrically wide release. But Sam, go on.
All right, so my favorite was Blanky because, all right, when I was growing up, I was the youngest of 4 children, and Blanky is the youngest of these 5 5-ish. I don't remember the number of appliances there are, but I could relate to the Blanky because he was like, he was just so young and emotional and full of sentimentality for the one that like loved them and raised them essentially, and I could feel that, especially when I was a kid and now. And I don't know, I thought he was so cute and just reminded me of me as a younger person. And you know, the main memories I have with the Brave Little Toaster is of this blanket in his fucking head and how it's supposed to be an electric dial, but I always thought it was the cheese thing.
I thought it was so.
What? What?
So
Wait, so
yeah.
it's an electric blanket?
Yes.
Yes, it's a heated blanket.
We talked about this.
So that's why Blanky is my favorite character, because he reminds me of myself when I was a kid.
Wait,
Can we get to the real?
You also
Can we get
had
to
a
the real
face no one
discourse?
understood?
Yes. I would
Wow.
argue nobody can understand my face.
I want to talk about the real discourse of this movie, which is the best scene of the movie. We go to I think it's Lampy and Toaster. This is the Toaster like opines about his gay feelings for Blanky.
Okay.
Oh,
Going
yes,
there.
this ship is born. He's like, why are being
Toaster
so
X Blanky.
blanket? What happened? And I'm just trying to understand. He's like, well, it's like a warm feeling, like how you feel about Master. Yeah, it's totally a ship now, for real. Toaster and Blanky forever.
Like, what is that scene about? It's about Toaster's in love with Blanky. That's entirely what it's about.
Yes.
There's no other reading.
Yeah.
Yay, bitch.
Well, what if I ruin it by saying it's more of a parental relationship?
Just like,
Exactly.
No, I mean, it could be a
Master,
different form of love. But
daddy,
it's love
what's
and
the
something.
baby.
Definitely.
Okay. Just
You can't
Uh.
get fucking like pedophilia incest here.
Toaster and Blanky is really the OT. I mean, there's no expansion on that after that scene, but that was the true OTP of a movie.
Yeah.
This is why I don't get
That's all
invited to these.
that was kind of weird that was the only scene where it came up, where like, you know, Lamp and
Well, you could say that about most
The
of the
plot
movie. Like, why is-
intervened. It's not their fault. They had a lot to do after that. They couldn't think about their feelings.
Where's
but they
our
were
where's our Katara and Aang like epilogue where they kiss
swear to
at the
God.
end
Oh,
after all the
vague.
action has happened? I mean, come on.
That's in the scene. They go to Mars. They kiss on Mars. It's the honeymoon.
Okay, we got to greenlight the sequel then.
No, it already.
It already they already went to Mars, buddy. But you can go.
When?
Go look at
In
that.
Brave Little Toaster Goes to Mars, Dylan.
Yeah.
That's fake news.
Okay, sure.
Yeah.
But
I'm looking at
I'll
Wikipedia.
ask
Literally
that
real.
Blanky is kind of like, I guess, the emotional pull of this show, because like he's the one who initially misses
That's
the
real?
master the most, and then
Yeah.
well, I'm asking, like, do you care enough about Blanky? Because it seems, at least to me, it seemed like the movie is trying to make him the emotional center for most of the movie until we shift to Toaster doing his dramatic act at the end. But for most of the movie, I think it's Blanky who's being the driving force. But I don't know if Blanky is strong enough of a character to really do that. Maybe that's part of why it feels so disconnected at times.
Wait, why haven't we watched the two sequels yet?
It's
Just
been
watch
an
the
hour,
first
Dylan.
one.
Thanks for ignoring me, Dylan.
Someone just posted a picture of the second movie, and it's.
I know it's
Yeah.
pretty
Actually, the third
wild.
movie.
I told you.
Okay,
it's
so
real.
so nobody cares about Blanky's emotional arc. Fine.
I agree. Blanky was the focus of the first half. I
cares.
agree. with
Sam
that.
cares.
I'm
I
a really
care.
emotional person, and I
Okay.
relate.
Yeah. Okay, that's good. That's good.
Can the picture for this podcast be the blanket's face in the
Yes.
book?
Yes.
Well, just use the
Yes.
cover.
The one from the
No
book.
context.
Let's hear. Another big part of this movie is the music, because as of the time, many animated movies were musicals, and this has 4 original songs: City of Light, It's a Bee Movie, Cutting Edge, and Worthless.
It's a bee.
Do you guys have?
These are the weirdest song insertions that I've ever seen.
B
Uh,
movie's my favorite.
Have
Same.
you ever seen Dylan? What about Shrek?
No, well, Shrek.
Shreks make more sense, okay, than this movie.
They kind of
Yeah,
do.
like Shrek is using music that exists, but like these are created specifically for this very weird themed movie, so that's why the
Okay.
songs also feel a little weird. For example, it's a B movie, which is about the appliances being mishmashed together as if they were
Is Adam Sandler in that
Frankenstein's
song?
monster.
Wait, what? Because a bee movie?
Yeah, the movie.
So rude.
Where's Adam Sandler?
Okay. Justin, can you elaborate on what you enjoyed about that sequence?
Because it's nothing but references to like crappy horror movies. They reference Vincent Price in a kids movie. Like, as someone who enjoys terrible, crappy horror movies, specifically of the Italian and Australian variety, I fucking love that song, man.
I loved it because it was going for like a disco vibe too, which is like very incongruous with the rest of the movie, but like it's a good beat. So like it was a weird combination, but like for me that song really
What
worked.
does it kids call it these days? A bop?
Oh God.
It's a bop.
No one said one of them was a bop. I don't remember.
It was definitely a bop.
The first
definitely
one.
A bop.
Yeah.
Would any
So
of
were
these
all
songs
subsequent
make it on a
ones.
Kids Bop album is the question.
Oh,
Yeah,
God.
only Kids Bop
all
49.
of them,
Remember that
especially
time
Worthless,
that we-
best kids
Yeah.
pop song.
Fucking emo Panic at the Disco song.
Yeah.
I first heard Skater Boy on a Kids Bop CD. True story.
My
I've never heard the
condolences.
"Take Me to Light" the Evanescence song of Drew Kids Bop.
I
That,
think
No,
that would
but
have
I've
fit
heard
in with
My
this movie.
Immortal.
that
Um,
sounds worse.
So, of Evanescence, other songs that are similar to stuff they sing is Worthless. Anybody want to comment on that? Because that's like the song that's airing in
Are
like
you
the
calling
climax of
Evanescence
the movie.
worthless?
No, but they sometimes sing about you feeling worthless.
It's
and, like,
worthless. That's when all the cars are like dying on screen.
Yeah,
I'm
they're
so
turning into
tired of being
cubes.
here.
That's darker than
Yeah.
anything in the past 15 years of kids movies.
Yes, it was.
Is that darker than Bing Bong? Truly.
Oh my God, yeah.
Yes, because like that's going for like weepy sadness, but this is going for more like defeated sadness, you know?
Who's your friend that likes
Oh,
Oh my god.
Big Bong.
No, I counter. You know what was sadder? From Hyperion Animation, the Proud Family movie.
Oh my god!
No one's
really?
seen that. Who's seen
Wait,
that?
there's a sad scene.
I didn't know they had.
Saw it.
I didn't know there's a movie. We should watch that.
No,
It's a great
no,
show.
the whole movie's
man.
about George Washington Carver's evil twin.
Okay.
Wait, what?
Okay. Moving on. And any thoughts on the other musical sequences? We have City of Light at the beginning, which is just like them
Why are
going
they
through a
talking about
frolicky
Paris?
garden. Yeah, I don't know. Does Paris own City of Lights? Like all cities have lights, so like aren't they
That's
allowed?
true, man.
It's true, but that's how they refer to it.
Sure, but
New York
yeah.
doesn't sleep. Tokyo is on crack. Paris has lights.
Sure. And Cutting Edge is an ode to 80s capitalism about how technology is going to kick all our asses.
That was really weird too.
I kind of thought it was brilliant in its own way. Sort of like how, you know, in the 80s, there was still dissonance of this whole consumerism thing that was happening during the Reagan era. And I don't know, like, I thought it was interesting how these animators thought, like, hey, yuppies are like a bunch of bullshit, so let's just fucking write a song about it. Like, I thought that was nice.
Yeah.
That
Yeah.
doesn't make any fucking
No, it made sense. And like
It
it's interesting that the villains of this movie are the quote new version, like the
Dude!
updated technology, right? Like they're
Dude!
the villains of this movie.
Were they actually the villains that they showed up like the last 20 minutes?
Well, that's kind
Okay,
of the
so
problem.
here's the thing. The first 45 minutes of this movie are coherent, and then we just have plot stuff happen. After that, there's plot stuff happening one after another that says no precursor in the movie and doesn't make any sense. So the narrative is terrible, but it's kind of interesting, weird things happening. But none of it has any lead up.
Yeah, and like we have the scene of them in the parts store, and like that, it's a very interesting scene, but like it obviously there's not really a lead up to them getting there. They're just like rescued from quick mud.
That
by
feels
this
very
dude.
Toy Story though.
Yeah.
That the parts the toys find themselves in this terrible place, and then they have to
As a
Yeah.
kid, I thought I would deal with a lot more quicksand than I have as an adult.
Yeah, man. Dude, do you watch John
Tumblr
Mulaney?
post.
Yes, that's where I heard that from.
Yeah.
Stealing jokes from John Mulaney, jeez.
John Mulaney. Who wheezed?
If you have to ask, it's
That was a
Allie,
very audible wheeze.
John Mulaney played Spider-Ham.
Yes, John Mulaney has
It's
been in an
definitely
animated
Allie.
movie.
No, it wasn't.
It was Michelle.
No,
No, it wasn't. I don't weasel.
It was Sam.
That was Sam, yeah.
Wheezy's the
Oh, I got
character
it
in
on the
Toy
third
Story
try.
2.
Dude, I
That was
watched the
Al.
John Mulaney specials like
John Mulaney
All
in
the time.
Toy Story 2?
No,
No,
Wheezy is the
Wheezy.
character in Toy Story.
He's Spider Pig.
wheezes.
It's
Where was Spider Pig fit in this movie? That's the real question.
Well,
Spider-Pig wasn't invented yet.
Spider Pig is of
No,
the legacy
Spider-Ham
of,
did exist.
talking. Well, they're talking animals in this movie. Like there's a part where we go into the field and they're like beavers.
Can we
and stuff.
discuss the
squirrels can talk,
logistics?
but then the dog doesn't
Yeah.
talk.
Spider-Ham
Why do they talk just because they have electricity? I want to talk about that. Like, what's the rules of this world?
So the rules of this world is you get to talk if they want you to talk. The end.
One fridge was sentient and the other one wasn't.
Wait, Michelle, what were you saying?
If you're an appliance, you talk. But if you're not an appliance and you don't talk, that's the logic.
But
So
then why do
food,
some
pillow,
animals talk?
I think calling a electric
only
blanket an appliance is
animals-
generous.
Yeah.
Why was the fridge in the parts store sentient but not the fridge in the cabin?
Because the fridge in the cabin was already dead, it given up, but the one in the
So it was a
store
corpse.
is still.
Oh.
Yes,
They tried to
Corpse,
ride a
right.
corpse.
yes,
That's
exactly.
dark. Michelle.
Yes.
What
The
if it's
whole movie's already.
I wonder if there are like appliances that are old enough that they were built before the ability to become sentient. Like, what if that fridge was the oldest appliance in that house?
Alex,
Oh,
your
boy,
mind
maybe.
is just like galaxy mind. Like Jesus, man, you're so smart.
Galaxy mind.
Like I'm not like being like fucking funny with that. I'm like,
Okay. Yeah, so I guess just touching on brief pieces that we haven't talked about. At the beginning, the orchestral music is very heavy. I think that calms down later in the movie. I don't know, but like in the beginning, it's very noticeable, like how loud the music is over like the sequence of like us meeting the characters and then doing chores and all. But yeah, so music was loud.
It's very dramatic, also. Like, and
Yeah. Well, like, it was very orchestral, right? It feels weird. Yeah, we get introduced to air conditioner around here, and he is like telling them to come to terms with the fact that their master is gone forever, and they should just be happy with their lives. As
Apparently, air conditioner is a Jack Nicholson impression.
Yeah,
I didn't get
that's
that.
what Wikipedia says.
That's
Yeah.
tense.
Phil-
Yeah, he did kind of sound like Jack Nicholson.
a little.
Air
bit.
conditioner was my favorite.
No.
Why?
You
Fucking
you
bad.
liked the meanest person in the movie? Okay.
I like the voice. It was good.
Yeah, so that's Phil Hartman, who is Saturday Night Live guy. So and he gets angry about being stuck in the wall, and he blows up, and so that's our first taste of death.
That was an actual death.
Our
Like
first
that was
taste of
really
death.
tragic.
Yeah, he died. He legit died. Yeah.
yeah.
I couldn't continue the movie. I would just turned it off after that. I was too heartbroken.
They keep seeing cars. The blanket has a hallucination that his master is back, but then it's actually not that, and they decide to go look for the master. They figure out this battery trick to power the vacuum tied to rolling
in
chairs.
less
Like that.
than 2 seconds.
Yeah,
You're actually paying attention to the plot. Wow, I'm impressed.
yeah. There's a lot of puns in this movie. I don't think we've mentioned the puns, but like I think
Okay, so at the start, this movie is the script is entirely puns, and
It
then we kind of
is.
get past that a
Yeah.
little bit.
yeah, that's
which is
another
good.
thing that like fades away as you get deeper into the movie, and like they focus more on the death. But like in the beginning, it's like, hey, the sun is a really big lamp. It's like, okay, sure.
It is, you know, their mind at that point. It was like just expanding into galaxy mind. Like,
What's with the galaxy mind?
Oh.
it's that Tim and Eric gif of what's his face? Eric just going.
It's that meme of like the guy with the brain is normal, but then like when he comes to a deeper opinion, his brain is exploding, sort of thing. Like
Sure.
that's galaxy brain. We're explaining memes here to Dylan. I guess that's what this has come to.
Yes.
I understand the meme. I
Yes.
don't understand why it's been repeated many times. That's my confusion.
Okay, fine. They eventually show up at this oasis with like a bunch of dancing animals and stuff. We mostly talked about that. There's like a frog diving line. There's some like
that was so weird.
That's actually
why is that there?
I want to comment
the
that's
whole
actually a
sequence.
very nicely animated shot of like the fish falling with the worm and the frogs in like a circle on the water. Like that particular shot was very well animated, I want to say.
It was.
Yeah, it looked pretty.
No, it was the choreography was nice. It made no like sense that whole sequence happened,
it
but
serves no
it
purpose.
was nice. Yeah, so it just depends on what you're looking for.
Yeah.
Not bad.
We touched on the sad flower, but I don't think we've dived into why it affected some people here so much. Like, who said that they were affected by the sad flower?
Michelle.
I think a lot of us.
Okay, well, Allie, tell me, like, what is the deeper meaning behind this scene of the toaster meeting a happy flower and then meeting a sad flower?
Oh God, deeper meaning. I'm too drunk for any meaning. Okay, so the flower, I guess it was isolated its whole life, right? Because it was in a bush. And there was just that ray of light to keep it living. Then it thought it met, I guess, its soulmate, and then it immediately ran away. So it was like, oh, fuck, if somebody came to me after all these years and I've been all alone, no one's ever going to come to me again. And then it killed itself, I guess. Or it started to die.
Yeah! It started to give up on life.
I really didn't get it as a kid. I was like, what the fuck is its problem? And then I was like, oh, it's just really depressed and isolated.
It's really lonely.
It didn't grow in a field of flowers. It just literally, the bush was surrounding it. So
Yeah, lots of depictions of moments of depression in this movie, which is interesting. I think the vacuum also gets something like that later in the movie.
I guess being like an appliance to be consumed is kind of depressing because that's your only use in life, you know?
Yeah, although like this is the same thing with like Toy Story, where like it seems that they're okay with their role, but at the same like they're to the point where they want to stick with their master to help them do the tasks that they know how to do. So like in one sense, like they're sad, but also it seems like that's what's keeping them alive.
Well, dude, what is Woody gonna do in college besides like sit on a shelf and Andy's gonna look up at it and be like, "Hey, remember when I played with Woody? That was fun." I'm never gonna play with him again. Like, fuck that, man.
Oh,
he's gonna take Woody to college with him and make him watch him jack off.
Oh my God.
Plays with
Allie.
Hopefully he puts Woody in like the closet so that he doesn't have to see that.
He turns his face around in shame.
Yeah.
I mean,
You're
imagine
my
this.
favorite deputy.
Well, like imagine being in college and saying you have a toy named Woody and you play with it. You play with
Toy
your
Story 3, Brokeback Mountain.
No.
Okay. Let's hear anything. Blanket uses himself as a tent. That's kind of cute, I guess.
And that's when the gay scene happens.
Pitching a tent. Yes.
Pitching a tent.
Yeah.
That's funny, Alex, man.
Yeah.
That was my joke.
Yeah, I stole it from Justin.
Oh my God.
So right after the slash fix situation, we have already discussed, there's a nightmare sequence that Toaster has where he's burning toast and he kills his master, and then there's a clown and he shoots a hose or a fork.
Firefighter clown. Scary.
So that sequence was very impressive in its weirdness. So good
That's
on
what
that.
I'm going for Halloween as this year now.
You're going as the clown?
The firefighter clown. No. His teeth are so out of control, you guys.
I hate it, man.
Yeah.
Why do people hate clowns?
Yeah, Michelle, why do people hate clowns?
They come out from the sewers and ask you if you want penis enlargement pills.
No.
It's a I'm gonna tell you why, okay? Okay. It's a combination of like the face paint and the gloved hands and like the rubber shoes and like the nose. Like that combination feels like
Dylan, do you not like this?
I know. There's something like fake sneaky and aesthetically wrong about those pairing of things together in a creature that feels human but not 100% human.
Michelle,
That's
what
what's
the fuck
wrong
are you
with
talking
clowns.
about right now? What are you?
That's what's wrong with clowns.
Did you have that speech
I
prepared?
told
What-
you. No,
I
I've
love
thought
it.
this my whole life because I am afraid of clowns.
She is,
And
afraid of
that's what's
clowns.
wrong with them. Yeah. So there
I'm
you go.
impressed.
That's the reason. That's why they're scary.
All right. Skipping ahead, there's like also something we haven't talked about where like it's the master all of a sudden wants his old appliances back, so he's gonna drive to the cabin.
Well,
and
no,
we have
Alex.
multiple shots of them crossing each other's paths. Yes, Em?
Alex, it wasn't all of a sudden. He wanted the appliances because he was going to college, and like he needed them in his dorm room, so they're important.
Is this blanket really important?
Yes,
Yeah.
keep warm.
Security. You need security in college too.
What if his girlfriend gets her period and has cramps? That's what the heated blankets are for.
You know, like
Oof.
even if it's
That's
like fucking
smart.
like 70
That's
degrees
so
at night,
smart.
I still wear my blanket at night. I love my blanket.
Yeah, blankets.
Thank you.
Yeah. We have this whole
Why does
Dumb
he need a
shit.
shit ass
Yeah.
radio?
No worries.
yeah.
Who has
so
a
like
vacuum?
a bunch of cars getting crushed.
I'm sorry. Who cleans?
I feel like we skipped a
Who
lot.
cleans
Did we?
in college? Why does he need a vacuum? Nobody cleans in college.
What about they get abducted? Yeah, we talked about it, but they get abducted by the dude who repairs the things.
Right.
and
We
then-
mostly talked about the parts
Yeah.
shop, but is there anything specific you want to pull out from that sequence that we haven't talked about
The
yet?
fucking
the
mutilation
lamp with
part?
the lips.
No,
The lamp with the
Oh,
lips.
right. I guess we haven't talked about him, have we?
but the blender
We need
gets
to spend at
mutilated.
We need to spend at least 10 minutes on this lamp.
He's got like an
no.
accent going on.
No.
Do you want to know
Bad.
how to escape?
Yeah, exactly. There you go.
I
It's so
abstain
good.
from this discussion. Goodbye.
It's a real like it's like an Igor impression.
It is.
Like the way that- Yeah, and also in this they dissect a blender, which very violently as well. There's like
It's
the
fucking-
dude
it's a
stabbing it with a
mutilation.
screwdriver.
It's really dark.
Dylan, say something on that. You had a reaction.
What I have a reaction to?
The guy
stabbing.
stabbing the blender with the screwdriver.
Or no.
Oh, he died. Oh my god, that was so violent.
Yeah.
There's so much violent death. Like that was like
But it was
trauma. That would have been traumatized.
That's the thing about the death. A lot of it is just very morbid in this.
well, but it's
No,
artfully
this
done
is-
too, because like at least that part, like it's
Yeah,
done in
no, it
shadow,
is.
right? So like so like it's
That makes it
violent in
more
that
traumatic.
it feels that way, but it doesn't look that way. But it's like it's riding a nice balance, I think.
Oh yeah.
Like I think Michelle said earlier, like children can watch this and not be propelled by it, but it's significant enough that like even as an adult, you still feel
It sticks
something.
with you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So it's definitely riding a nice line there. The dump stuff happens. There's a really evil magnet for some reason that like wants to do his job.
He never talks, man.
Yeah, I feel like there's missed potential there.
Layers.
Like,
If
He's
he
like
did, I
this-
think it would be too loud. All the humans would hear him.
No, he's the silent judge of humanity and like fucking sentience.
Oh shit.
Damn.
Holy shit,
elaborate.
He did almost
Elaborate.
kill a guy.
All right, so he's just like following around these fucking toasters and vacuums and shit, and he's just like not giving up. So like the guy almost finds the toaster and stuff like 5 times. But the fucking
Yeah, why does he keep going after the toaster? Why?
because he
He
wants
just has it in for that toaster.
he wants
So-
to feed on them.
So
do they still have hope? Is that why he needs to eradicate
Yes!
all hope?
wow.
Wow.
It's true, Dylan.
Because that's what the song is about. All those cars
Oh
are,
my God.
but they're not a priority because they already think they're worthless. But these appliances have been through so much and they have so much hope in them.
Dude, you should
Exactly.
get a doctorate in like animation.
Sam, this is your theory. Sam, this is your idea.
This
I'm
movie is
thinking,
about
You need to get
I'm-
that into it.
I'm too inebriated to have that kind of thought.
No, it was you. I took it off piggyback off you.
Play back the tape.
Sure.
Yeah. So, and I guess we should begin ending by talking about the brave moment of the toaster. He dives into the gears and gets himself crushed up.
Why didn't he die?
The image goes all red, so it's like and this stuff happens, and he dies, except that he gets rebuilt. So it wasn't really a brave act.
Yes, because he didn't know if he was going to live or not. He didn't know if Master was going to.
Brave. Looking at you, red badge of courage.
Yeah, the words to live by. You don't have to die to be brave.
Just remember, when you live for someone, you're prepared to die.
Wow, that's what love is, man.
That's love is.
No, excuse me. Toaster is for Blanky only.
Yeah. Well, Blanky and Master.
Dylan, I'm pretty sure the blanket is a minor.
They're all appliances.
Okay, here's another question. Why does the Master specifically want this toaster? At the very end, we see that he takes toast out of the toaster and he's chomping it in front of his girlfriend, very haha, I told you so. But what is special about the toast that this toaster can make?
Because it's made with love.
With the toaster, it's a part of him now.
Yeah, he has really fond memories of it. And
so you don't think it's like a taste situation? It's just it's the memory.
Just for the nostalgia.
Elaborate on this taste situation.
Well, see, what I was thinking is maybe it's so old that the toast that you put in it gets added flavor. You know, like an old frying pan, right? It has all the flavors of stuff you cooked in it before.
Oh, the flavors of this taste situation.
Yeah, so I think that might
toast, just toast.
Oh boy, I can't wait to have trash toast for breakfast.
I mean, hey, he might be into that, you know.
He might be, actually. I mean, I'm pretty sure it's just because he's a cheap motherfucker.
Yeah, man. He just fixes his own goddamn broke-ass toaster in front of his gay girlfriend, and he's probably going to break up with her.
How many years into college does she realize she's gay?
They have a baby together, Dylan.
About 2 weeks.
I think maybe 2
Wait,
years.
we need to watch the sequel. We need to watch. Okay, so we're staying on to watch the second movie in podcast.
Yeah, throw the toaster goes to Mars.
They have a fucking baby.
Why did they do 2 more of this?
Wait, there are 2 more? I thought there was one more. Holy shit!
No, there's
What's
2.
the third one?
Where they run a fucking veterinary lab and there are animals everywhere.
Dude, Allie, you're so right.
I feel like, actually, is it a prequel before they have the kid? Because
Who's seen all 3?
Me?
Who's seen all 3?
I think I've
Why?
Allie, I
When I was
haven't
really
seen any
young.
of the 2. Wow.
Okay, can I just read something real quickly? So, The Brave Little Toaster to the Rescue was released in 1997. The Brave Little Toaster Goes to Mars was released in 1998. But in the canon of The Brave Little Toaster, The Brave Little Toaster Goes to Mars happens before The Brave Little Toaster to the Rescue.
What the fuck is that?
I was
What
very
is
confused.
that mind fuck of a fucking lore, man?
The first one, and then there's the second one where they have the baby, and then it cuts back to them, I guess after college when they have a shitty startup job.
Yeah.
But I don't know why they did it that way.
Yeah.
Why do you watch all these sequels?
Because
Because they were on to Disney, man.
Yes,
Yeah.
exactly.
AKA
Man,
Disney XD, which
options back then.
Master's name is officially Rob McGorty.
What?
Well, who cares? I'm calling him Master for this entire podcast, and I will continue to do that. Quickly, we called him a cheap ass, which reminds me, we haven't talked about TV.
Oh,
Any love for TV?
He's the
No.
real star of this movie. He's the one.
He tried to save them, yeah.
Yeah, he saves them. And he's really an unsung character of this movie. And I hope that he plays a bigger role in the other movies, but who knows? No.
Well, Sam, we'll find out in 10 minutes when we watch number 2.
No.
Who knows? Because rabbit TV ears have gone obsolete as of 2008 or so.
Rab.it?
Wow.
No! Rabbit
Well,
ears! The fucking antennas!
Now we have digital TV. Again.
Oh my god. You people need to read Wikipedia sometime. Or get in tune with your past.
I thought
Get
you
into it, your past,
Wikipedia
losers.
They do
Well,
have
we're-
a baby.
Guys, what's a
wait.
radio?
Wait,
Oh,
what?
Oh my god.
Oh, yeah.
I think I had an MP3 player that connected.
It's that thing that's in the car. that no one ever uses.
Can we do a modern remake of Brave Little Toaster where it's like an iPad?
Yes.
An iPad, an iPhone, an iTouch. They're all like, "Who am I?"
It's just an Apple commercial, but
No, the
that's how
fucking
we sell
radio will
it.
be like Alexa or something.
Oh God!
Yeah, it's Alexa exactly, and there's a Roomba in there.
Yeah.
Instead of the vacuum
Being
cleaner.
like,
yeah.
I don't want to spy on my humans. I like them. Why does the government have to know what they're up to?
Can we
Allie,
greenlight this?
you are a fucking visionary.
Well,
Sell that idea.
there's the fan cast of the Netflix series. It's
Oh,
right there for the
Jesus.
taking. So, I guess the Disney Plus series, since maybe Disney still has
Netflix
rights
is really
to this.
missing out.
They kind of
on
are.
not greenlighting the sequel, this modern
They
reboot
should.
of Brave
Goes
Little
to Mars
Toaster.
has a sink faucet played by Farrah Fawcett.
Good to know. We are now finishing a sequel
Oh my
discussion, and we will begin wrapping up here.
Wait.
Yeah. Yes.
Before we wrap up, I forgot.
Okay.
Did we talk about A113?
You can mention it briefly that there was a door
Oh,
that's called
okay.
A113.
Just
I don't know if this is the first reference of A113 in film. It probably
hope
isn't,
not.
but yeah. So early before it ends up showing up in all the Pixar movies. So yeah.
that was a thing that happened, and I
No,
definitely
because-
noticed it now after 25
Because-
years.
Fun fact: a lot of the Pixar people worked on this movie, so that's
Right.
why. Yeah, that's why there's a lot of Toy Story references and a lot of the A113 references because of the classroom and Cal Arts. You know,
Yeah.
But seriously, for a second, Pixar ripped off this movie.
they did.
It's not a joke. They actually did.
Yeah.
It really did.
I didn't mean to scream that, but it's true.
We screamed at the beginning of the podcast. Well, we already talked about it. This is how we introduced the podcast, and I guess this is how we're ending the podcast.
Alex,
With,
that was like 5 million years ago.
Okay, fine.
I'm not trying to be mean. I love you.
Yeah, it's fine. I love you too, Sam.
Aw.
Aw.
Quickly, I just had this open. I haven't used it, but like since the Brave Little Toaster wasn't released theatrically wide release, it got nominated for Emmys instead. But it lost the animated program Emmy to a Claymation Christmas Celebration. So boohoo. Anyways,
Wow.
Checks out.
yeah. So there's tribute for you. Yeah, so I guess the final thoughts before we leave here, thoughts on the Brave Little Toaster, its effect on animation in the future. Like, let's do it this way. Do you think that the Brave Little Toaster affected anything about future movies besides being ripped off by Pixar? Like, do you think like the themes of this ever mattered again, or is this like its own like little thing that to be forgotten in time? Dylan, let's go to you first.
No, although we would have benefited had it happened, because modern animation movies are a homogeny of animation style and story and themes, and Brave Little Toaster was brave and bold, and had we been brave, and had we built on the stellar reputation of this impeccable movie, then we would be in a much better place now.
I sense sarcasm in you, sir.
No, absolutely not.
Okay, sure. Let's go with that. Justin, your final thoughts here.
I'm so fucking furious. I think this was the first appearance of A113, and that genuinely upsets
Oh
me.
my
Wow.
god.
Is there like there's got to be like a Wikipedia article.
Oh,
of this
that's
one.
right.
I'm looking through it right fucking now, and it's one.
So yeah, okay, good job, bud.
The second one was a Christian straight-to-video TV show.
This was Christian?
No,
No,
the
what?
second one.
No, he's saying the second reference appeared in some
Oh.
Christian TV show, but okay.
Oh,
Okay.
So is that your final thought, Justin? All right, Allie, moving on to you. Final thoughts.
Master.
This was a movie.
What? Huh?
You're welcome, Allie.
It was a movie that I watched, and I feel like it
Yeah,
might have
those
been like
Sam's
7 years
thoughts.
since I watched it before today, and now I'm gonna wait another like 14 before I watch it again.
Yeah.
No,
that
but we're
seems
starting
about
from the
right.
beginning and then doing a marathon of all
Oh,
three
we
of them.
should. Yeah.
I need to like have more than alcohol in me for the next one.
Oh, what else do you need?
Get some
Like
of that
Cocaine.
Mary...
I don't know.
No, that Mary
What?
Jane though.
I've seen it, so that means a lot.
I just heard a great podcast on crack.
Good for you. Sam, do you have any final thoughts about the Brave Little Toaster's effect
Okay.
on history?
So I know that I'm kind of dumb drunk, and I know that during the movie,
you've actually been the most coherent at like.
Really,
Yeah,
that's
actually.
amazing.
No,
Yeah,
I'm
yeah.
the coherentist.
No, go away, Justin. Sam, continue.
So I know that. Shut the fuck up, man. God, hopefully people catch our picture.
Yeah. Okay.
Anyway,
Sam?
but I know that during the movie I wasn't really feeling too into it. I was like, oh, this is kind of, not really coherent. It just kind of feels like a book or whatever.
Mhm.
But, after the fact, when I'm really thinking about it, I'm like, this is a really deep movie about some really great themes. And I know I said this earlier, that, like, people really need to pay attention to and really, like, accept in their lives. And I think, if you're watching it either under the influence or above the influence, whatever have you, I think if you really think about it, it's a great movie about accepting your fate in this life and accepting, death can come at any time, and accepting that you should make the best of it and what you have and go find your purpose in this life. And that's really what the vacuum cleaner and the rest of the appliances are doing. They're going to accept whatever comes in this life, whether it be a field of flowers or a fucking junkyard. They are trying to make the best of what this life has to offer. And they're trying to find whatever may come and what might make them feel as good as they did when they were a kid. And I think that's a great message. You should sort of, I don't know, find what makes you happy. And maybe that's
Preach,
Yeah.
sister.
That was beautiful.
No,
Michelle,
maybe that's just drunk me like saying that, but I think that's
Preach.
true. Maybe you should just sort of find what makes you happy in this life.
Look, at any time you could fall off of a waterfall or
Like
whatever.
Yeah. Like you lost your mop wife or whatever. But
Yeah, exactly.
It's fine,
I love that, Candace.
I thought you said mob wife.
No, mop, M-O-P. Mop.
Your
Mop.
mop wife. Vacuum
And
mop
just
wife.
try to find what makes you happy, even if it means like dying,
Shit.
because this is the only life that you have to live.
YOLO.
Yeah,
Just
YOLO,
don't make
exactly.
it a stupid sacrifice for
Drake
your
is a
life.
real asshole, by the way, but we'll say that.
Okay, good.
Let's dive into
Let's
that.
cut it off there. Michelle, I'm sorry that you have to follow that up, but like your final
I
thoughts.
had to go off of that, following Sam's train of thought. So, Sam, you're saying they need to find what makes them happy. I would argue that the thing that they find out is that each other is what makes them happy, and they actually care about each other a lot more than they anticipated. Because at the beginning of the movie, they're all kind of like out for themselves. Like they all care about the master. That's the only thing they have in common. But throughout the journey, they all have moments where they're trying to save either everyone else or one other person, and they all kind of rise to that challenge. And through that, they learn that, like, wow, the people I'm going on this journey with is actually the people I care the most about in the entire world. And the master becomes like, the master himself becomes more of like an obsolete kind of like, oh yeah, that's our goal abstractly, but whether we find him or not, like, it's you guys right here that are my family and that I really care about, and you're the reason I'm doing this, and like, you're kind of my whole world. And I think that's really kind of great, and you never know when that might happen to you, so don't be a dick and try to help your friends is the moral of The Brave Little Toaster.
I'm going to cry from that.
Guys, I love you all so much. You're
You're my toaster family. Yeah.
Warm, fuzzy feeling inside.
Tag yourself on the
I'm
vacuum.
sorry, toasty feeling.
I can do.
I'm the radio.
The radio.
Yeah,
No,
don't
I'm the
the
radio.
radio.
I'm the
Sam's
Sam's
chair.
definitely blaming me. Yeah,
Can I be the chair?
absolutely. You can be the chair. Yeah,
Yay.
Allie, you can be the chair.
Who's master?
That's you, Dylan, because you
No,
look
you-
like him.
No, I refuse.
Everyone shut up, because Master is the audience. And thank you,
Aw.
Master,
Yeah,
for
that
letting us
abstract
into your
thing.
ear holes.
Oh my Nice.
If you want to listen to us speak seriously about other animation topics, as we have done tonight,
This
honestly,
was
like-
serious.
yeah, like, I'm saying, like, honestly, I think we came at a very like serious breakdown of this movie, and we do this for a lot of other animated media here, sober, but like still analytical discussion. We do that at overlyanimated.com. You can also find us on iTunes at overlyanimated.com/iTunes. You can find us on YouTube at overlyanimated.com/YouTube. If you would like to suggest future editions for Overly Animated After Dark, we want to focus on like weird movies that probably don't get talked about a lot, but like do have some effect on animation history. If you would like to recommend that, one way to get in touch with us is also through Discord. You can chat with us there at overlyanimated.com/Discord. If you have listened this far, it's likely that you may want to like hearing us. And if you do that, if you do enjoy hearing us, then one way to help us out is supporting us financially via Patreon. And you can learn more about that at patreon.com/overlyanimated. Thanks to all of our current patrons, especially our patron of the podcast, James, aka Ironwood. Thanks as always to our Patreon executive producers, John, Ryan, Stephen, Hugh. Besides the Brave Little Toaster, we've discussed a wide variety of other shows that currently, I believe we have had a Miraculous Ladybug podcast recently. We've talked about, Dylan, help me out. Like, what are some recent stuff we've talked about here?
We did Ruby D&D earlier today.
Yeah. That I think is also a little bit under the influence, but it's not under the After Dark brand. But yeah,
Star. Yeah, there's a bunch of stuff.
Yeah. So we try to Love, Death, and Robots was covered recently in terms of adult animations. So like we could try to cover the whole spectrum out there right now.
I think Brave Little Toaster really is just a Love, Death, and Robots short expanded into a full feature.
Dude,
yeah.
There were even titties in this movie.
I know there
The
were.
hypnotic swirling one.
What would a mechanical penis be here?
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
I'm wrapping. I'm in wrap-up mode.
I want to die.
Okay. So
Everyone, calm down. He's in wrap-up mode.
He has to shift to wrap-up mode.
Okay, shut up. Thank you for listening to Overly Animated After Dark. Thanks for listening.
What? What's the voice?
We'll talk to you next time. Goodbye.
Goodbye.
Bye.
Bye.
Wow.
Bye,
My
guys.
first Dark Pod. That's great.
Bye, bitch.
That was
That'll be where I cut it off.